When adding an assignment with your editing turned on, you'll click Add an Activity or Resource. Assignment is right at the top. We'll give that a click and add. Now, assignments can be used for more than just the traditional assignment. If you have an activity where you just want them to write an essay, you can choose to have them just give you online text. This is also a good place to give feedback, and in later videos we'll look at adding your rubrics and your marking guides to the assignment. So the information you definitely need is the assignment name, you can add a description, which is optional, and just below the description any additional files you want the students to have access to. If there's an article that they need to read, this would be where you would attach the article to make it available to them as they open up the assignment. Next up, we'll look at the availability. This looks at from when you allow submissions from, the due date, and the cutoff date for the assignment. It's a good idea to have your due date or your cutoff date exactly 24 hours after the due date, as Stadio has a 24-hour grace period after the due date. So what we'll do is we'll look at when to start these submissions from. We'll be starting it from the 27th of February. The due date at the moment is set to the 5th of March, and the cutoff date will make exactly 24 hours later. So what will happen is, if a student submits on the 6th, it will still allow the student to submit, but it will show that it is a late submission. In most cases we turn off the remind me to grade by. What this will do is, as the date approaches for the remind me to grade, it would send you an email to say, okay, it's time to grade the paper or grade the assignment. But in most cases you won't need to have that. Then we have our submission types. So for the submission types, the two you'll mainly use will be file submissions and online text. File submissions is when you want the student to upload a file to you, whether it's a Word document, some images. You can set the number of files that they can upload. And online text is when you want your students to type text into a text box. So online text you'd use if you just want them to write an essay in the assignment activity. So depending on which one you need, you will check the appropriate box. With your feedback types, we have feedback comments and feedback files that you'll end up using in most cases. The offline grading sheet is used for when you want to upload grades in batches, but in most cases you won't be doing that, as you'll be grading one student at the time and the mark will appear in the gradebook automatically. Feedback files we'll use when we want to give a file back to the student, but if you're only using feedback comments, you'll be allowed to give the student a grade and an overall feedback. For your submission settings, we require students to click the submit button. This means that they confirm that they are submitting it for grading, and we require students to accept the submission statement. This is to say that this is their own work. Attempts being reopened is allowed. This gives you as the lecturer the option of allowing a student to submit a different assignment, or if they've made changes, or if it's a late submission, you get to do that. The maximum attempts is set to unlimited. This allows students to submit assignments right up until the due date. For group assignments, we have group submission settings. If this is changed to yes, you have some more options that appear. So you will require the group to make submission. But what we don't want to do is require all group members to make a submission. With this set to no, any one of the group members can submit the assignment, and it is submitted for all of the group members. This also allows you to grade all the group members in one go. For notifications, we would suggest you have everything set to no. This means when a student submits to the assignment, you won't get a notification by email to say a student has submitted, or you won't be notifying any of the graders. That means if you have any markers enrolled on the page, they won't get any notifications. The default setting for notify students, we change to no, so that as you are grading the assignment, your students won't get an email to say that they have just received a grade and will want to go onto ECI to check. We want to give all the grades in one go, so we set this to no. And once you have graded everything, that's when you'll unhide the activity to show the grade in the gradebook or on the main page. For grading, you can set the maximum grade. In most cases, we'll leave it on point scale. In a later video, we'll look at the difference between simple grading, marking guide, and rubric, and how you can add those to your assignments. So for now, we'll just leave it on simple grading. This allows you to just type in a mark and move on to the next student. For common module settings, it's okay to leave this on separate groups, especially if you get into a situation where you need to create groups for late submissions or anything to that effect. You'll want to be able to switch between the groups. Restrict access is something we'll be looking at in a later video as well. In most cases, this only comes into play if you want students to do other activities before they have access to this assignment. Activity completion is something we'll cover in a separate video as well. This has to do with what is considered how we look at a student has actually completed the activity, whether they've opened it up, if there's any other conditions that need to be met before the activity is seen as completed. Tags and competencies we do not apply to our assignment activities or any activities in most cases, so you can actually ignore these two settings. Once you have done all the settings, you can save and return to course, and your assignment will be available.